The morning Marcus pulled a stranger from the harbor, he had no idea that within 3 days his entire life would turn inside out. Marcus Hayes was 41, a marine surveyor who spent most of his days inspecting boat hulls and writing reports that nobody read with enthusiasm. He had been quietly divorced for 2 years from a woman who decided that predictable was another word for boring, and he had made peace with the fact that his life now consisted of work, his dog, and Saturday mornings at the harbor with coffee that tasted like optimism had been strained out of it. It was 6:30 on a Tuesday when he saw her go over the rail. He was standing near the old pier doing a pre-inspection walk when he heard the splash. The water was cold enough to stop a heart, and the woman was already struggling by the time he dropped his clipboard and dove in. The shock of the water hit him like a fist, but he reached her, got an arm around her chest, and kicked hard toward the ladder. She was coughing and gasping when he hauled her up onto the dock, her dark hair plastered to her face, her eyes wide and terrified. He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Can you breathe?" he asked. She nodded, still coughing, her whole body shaking. "I'm calling an ambulance." "No," she said, her voice hoarse. "No ambulance. I'm fine. I just slipped." Marcus looked at her. She was maybe 37, wearing jeans and a sweater that was now soaked through, and she had the kind of face that looked like it smiled often but wasn't smiling now. "You need to get checked out," he said. "I need to get dry," she said, "and I need to get away from this dock before I die of embarrassment." He helped her to her feet. She was steady enough, and after a few minutes of him insisting and her refusing, she finally agreed to let him drive her to the nearest coffee shop where she could warm up. Her name was Elena Frost, she told him in the truck, and she was in town visiting her sister. She had been walking too close to the edge while distracted by her phone, and the rest was gravity and poor decision-making. At the coffee shop, she sat wrapped in his jacket with her hands around a mug of something hot and sweet, and Marcus sat across from her with his own terrible coffee and a growing awareness that he had just met someone he was not going to forget easily. She had a directness to her that felt rare, and when she smiled at him over the rim of her mug, he felt something shift in his chest that he had not felt in a long time. "Thank you," she said. "You saved my life." "You would have made it to the ladder," Marcus said. "Maybe," she said, "but I'm still thanking you." She left an hour later, insisting she was fine, and Marcus drove home trying to shake the feeling that he had just let something important walk out the door. He told himself he was being ridiculous. She was a stranger. She was visiting. She was probably married. He was 41 and too old to be building entire narratives out of one cup of coffee. 3 days later, she showed up at his door. Marcus was in his kitchen, staring at the remains of a sandwich and wondering if he had any groceries that didn't require actual cooking when the doorbell rang. He opened the door and found Elena standing on his porch holding a casserole dish wrapped in a towel and looking like she had been working up the courage to knock for the last 10 minutes. "Hi," she said. "I brought you dinner." Marcus blinked. "How did you find my address?" "Your name was on your jacket," she said. "And your company name was on your truck. I called your office and told them I needed to return something you lent me. They gave me your address." "I hope that's not weird." "It's a little weird," Marcus said. "I know," she said, "but I wanted to thank you properly, and showing up empty-handed felt wrong. So I made lasagna. If you don't eat lasagna, this is going to be even more awkward than it already is." Marcus looked at her. She was wearing jeans again and a green jacket, and her hair was pulled back in a way that showed her face clearly. She looked nervous and determined in equal measure, and Marcus realized he was still standing in the doorway like an idiot. "I eat lasagna," he said. He stepped aside. "Come in." She came in, and Marcus cleared space on his counter while she set the dish down and unwrapped it. The kitchen smelled like tomato and cheese and something else he couldn't name, and Elena looked around his house with the kind of interest that felt genuine rather than polite. "You live alone?" she asked. "Just me and the dog," Marcus said. "He's in the backyard. His name is Porter." "Good name," she said. She turned to look at him. "So, this is the part where I admit I didn't just come here to drop off lasagna." Marcus waited. "I'm not visiting my sister," Elena said. I mean, I am staying with her, but I'm not just visiting. I moved here 2 weeks ago. I left my job in Seattle and I left my fiance, and I came here to figure out what my life is supposed to look like when I'm not trying to make someone else happy. She took a breath. And when you pulled me out of that water, I was having the worst day of my entire year. I had just gotten off the phone with my ex, who told me I was making a mistake. And then I slipped and I went under, and for a second I thought that maybe he was right. But then you were there, and you didn't ask questions, and you didn't act like I owed you anything, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Marcus leaned against the counter. So you tracked me down. So I tracked you down, she said. She smiled, but it was tentative. If this is too much, just say so. I can leave the lasagna and go. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. He thought about his quiet house and his quiet life, and the fact that he had been telling himself for 2 years that quiet was what he wanted. He thought about the way she had looked at him in the coffee shop and the way she was looking at him now, and he thought about the fact that he was 41 years old and had forgotten what it felt like to take a risk on someone. Stay for dinner, he said. She stayed. They ate at his kitchen table, and the lasagna was good, and the conversation was better. Elena told him about Seattle, about the job she had left at an architecture firm where she had been drawing other people's dreams for 10 years. She told him about her ex-fiance, a man named Colin, who had wanted her to be smaller, quieter, more manageable. She told him about her sister, who had been trying to set her up on dates since the day she arrived, and who was going to be unbearable when she found out Elena had shown up at a stranger's house with food. Marcus told her about his work, about the satisfaction of finding a crack in a hull before it became a disaster. He told her about his ex-wife, who was now remarried and happy in a way that felt like closure. He told her about Porter, who was old and stubborn, and the best decision he had made in years. You're careful, Elena said somewhere near the end of the meal. Is that a question? Marcus asked. An observation, she said. You think before you speak? You don't fill silence just to fill it. You're careful. Depends what I'm trying not to break, Marcus said. Elena looked at him, and something in her expression changed. For the record, she said quietly, I'm not made of glass. Marcus felt his pulse kick up, but he kept his voice steady. Good to know. She left an hour later, but not before writing her number on a scrap of paper and leaving it on his counter. Marcus stood in his kitchen after she was gone, holding the paper and feeling like he had just stepped off the edge of something he couldn't see the bottom of. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Coffee on Saturday mornings, dinner on Wednesday nights, a walk along the harbor where she told him she had been thinking about going back to school, and he told her he thought she should. She met Porter, who loved her immediately in the way dogs love people who are worth loving. She met his friend Garrett, who worked at the marina and who pulled Marcus aside after 10 minutes to tell him he was an idiot if he let this one go. But it wasn't all smooth. Elena's ex-fiance, Colin, called her twice while she was at Marcus's house, and both times she stepped outside to take the call. The second time, Marcus heard her voice rise through the door, and when she came back in, her face was tight. He wants to meet, she said. Do you want to meet him? Marcus asked. No, she said, but he's in town. He flew in to convince me to come back. He's staying at the hotel on 5th, and he says he won't leave until I talk to him. Marcus looked at her. What do you want to do? I want to tell him to go home, Elena said, but I feel like I owe him a conversation. We were together for 3 years. I can't just ignore him. You don't owe him anything, Marcus said. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You're sweet, but I need to deal with this. She met Colin 2 days later at a restaurant downtown. Marcus didn't go with her, but he told her to call if she needed anything, and she promised she would. She came back 3 hours later looking exhausted and relieved in equal measure. He's leaving tomorrow, she said. I told him it was over. I told him I'm staying here and I'm starting over and he can't be part of that. He didn't take it well, but he took it. Marcus pulled her into a hug and she leaned into him like she had been holding herself upright for too long. I'm proud of you, he said. I'm proud of me too, she said. But Colin didn't leave. The next Saturday, Marcus and Elena were having coffee at the harbor when Colin appeared. He was tall, polished, wearing a suit that looked like it cost more than Marcus's truck, and he had the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Elena," he said, "I thought I'd find you here." Elena stood up. "Colin, you said you were leaving." "I changed my mind," Colin said. He looked at Marcus. "You must be the guy." "I'm Marcus," Marcus said. "Right," Colin said. "The hero." He turned back to Elena. "Can we talk? Alone?" "No," Elena said. "Whatever you want to say, you can say it here." Colin's smile tightened. "Fine. I came to tell you that I'm not giving up on us. I know you're confused right now, and I know you think starting over is the answer, but you're just running. You're scared of commitment, and you're using this," he gestured at Marcus, "as a distraction." Elena's face went very still. "I'm not confused, Colin, and I'm not running. I left because you spent 3 years trying to make me into someone I'm not. You wanted me to quit my job. You wanted me to move to your city. You wanted me to dress the way your colleagues' wives dress and talk the way they talk. And every time I said no, you acted like I was the problem. I wanted you to grow up," Colin said. "You wanted me to shrink," Elena said. Colin looked at Marcus. "Is this really what you want? A guy who pulls people out of the water for a living?" Marcus stood up. "She doesn't need me to answer for her," he said. "But since you asked, yeah, I pull people out of the water. It's a good job, honest work. And I've never once asked her to be someone she's not." Colin laughed. "That's because you don't know her well enough yet." "I know her well enough," Marcus said quietly. "I know she's braver than you gave her credit for. I know she left a life that was suffocating her and she's building a new one. And I know that you showing up here to insult her choices says a lot more about you than it does about her." Colin's face went tight. "You've known her for what, 3 weeks? Don't act like you understand her." "He understands me better than you ever did," Elena said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were bright. "And he doesn't need to understand everything to respect me. That's the difference, Colin. You love the idea of me. He just loves me." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. Colin stared at her, and for a moment Marcus thought he might say something else, but instead he turned and walked away without another word. Elena sat down slowly, and Marcus sat beside her. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm perfect," she said. She looked at him, and her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "Thank you." "You didn't need me," Marcus said. "I know," she said, "but I'm glad you were here anyway." That night, Marcus kissed her for the first time. They were standing on his porch, and the air smelled like rain, and she had just finished telling him that she was tired of being careful. He kissed her slowly, and she kissed him back like she had been waiting for him to figure it out, and when they pulled apart, she was smiling. "Took you long enough," she said. "I'm careful," Marcus said. "I know," she said, "but you don't have to be. Not with me." 6 months later, Marcus proposed to her in his backyard with Porter lying at their feet and the smell of cedar in the air. She said yes before he finished the question. A year after that, they were married in a small ceremony at the harbor, and Elena wore a dress the color of the sky just before a storm, and Marcus wore a suit that Garrett had helped him pick out. And when the officiant asked if he took this woman, Marcus said yes like it was the easiest word in the world. They bought a house near the water. Elena went back to school and started designing again, this time for herself. Marcus kept inspecting boats, and Elena kept making lasagna, and Porter got older and slower, but still loved them both fiercely. And sometimes, on quiet mornings, Marcus would stand at the window with his coffee and think about the day he pulled a stranger from the harbor and how his life had turned inside out in the best possible way. What would you have done if you saw someone fall into freezing water? And have you ever met someone who changed your entire life in a single moment? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.